Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and once again it is time for my client Ted's vlog. Obviously his first workout of the week, he did it on 4th of July, gyms were closed so he did it at home. He does have some basic stuff there, so we did a max effort close grip bench press. He got a 260 PR there. So again, that's coming along really well. Then afterwards we did back off work on the bench press. Right, he did some back off work, and then we did floor press. So what we'll notice on this day, pretty much have pull-ups, curls, triceps, and then lots and lots of pressing. So in his case, yeah, we still do a decent amount of rowing. We do a decent amount of pull-ups. He did mention he was going to come in a couple of these days. He got cut short, so he couldn't get all of his rowing and stuff in. He said, I'll go get it on an off day. I'll slip in and get the rest of that in because we do need to make sure that rowing gets done. But yes, Ted's volumes are very high, even though we're on a 4-day conjugate. He is on a lot more volume than my average client is, so I do need to have that disclaimer. A lot of it, though, is because, again, he's very athletic, lifelong athlete, and yes, that stuff matters. It absolutely matters. The stuff I point out to a lot of people, they're like, why do some people just, they have these work capacities sometimes? And what people have to remember, you have to think in terms of lifestyle, overall epigenetics and things. And I see this very frequently as a coach. When I get people who have been playing sports and stuff kind of their whole life, and then when they get up into their 20s and 30s, if they've stayed super active, and their activity level and conditioning and cardio is high, their work capacities tend to be crazy, right? And I've seen this a number of times actually as a coach, fairly common. And whereas you get guys who didn't do sports, they were really sedentary, they'll get up into their 20s and they're like, man, I can't even do 3 sets close to failure and replicate my performance, right? And it's because of that. And I think people have to remember that with the stuff that we do. If you start with this stuff later in life, you can still get great results. But you're not going to have as easy of a time as someone who, was active and running and jumping and doing sports and athletic at 14 years old. You're just not, guys. And I hate to tell this to a lot of people. If you chose to play, spend all your time, doing video games and those sports, there's going to be a price to pay for that, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate that it's that way, but it's just something I've noticed as a coach. Whereas in him, he's been a lifelong athlete. He still does a couple of other sports recreationally. So here we have for the floor press and we have the strict press, we've got weighted pull-ups, and here he is doing his tricep extensions, right? So we're doing our skull crushers right here. So again, finishing those triceps off. Again, we do a lot of tricep work for him, and it's because we do a lot of pressing. He prefers generally pressing closer grip, although I'm having him do some of his speed benching a bit wider because I'm like, look, over time we can get stronger at some of the wider grip stuff. It's going to carry over to bigger numbers, right? If you want a bigger bench, because his bench is his weakest lift, because that's a closed grip, he might be stronger with a wider grip if we can bring the pecs up and bring the grip out a little bit. Because again, he has a 205 strict overhead press, for example. It's 55 pounds difference. Whereas in here, 535 sumo, we pulled 500 plus conventional. We've got a 415 back squat, right? So comparison, you guys see what I mean. So it's something we are working on more and more. It's been a comfort thing for him of having done all this stuff with a closer grip, and a lot of athletes do gravitate in that way, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of sports to do a lot of closer grip pressing. All your pressing movements, overhead, incline, flat. Particularly for a lot of contact athletes, but it will come at the expense of chest development to some extent and chest strength, and particularly for a lot of guys trying to build a really big bench. But that's not universal either. We've seen there's guys out there who have crazy close grip benches. I mean, right? They are out there. So we do need to be aware of that. But just as a general rule, we're going to have a little more chest, and most people be a little better there. So for max effort lower, we did a sumo. We got a 535 there on his sumo deadlift. Then we're doing heavy good mornings, right? Then he does heavy machine squats, does these into a bottom position, right? So again, we go fairly heavy on these, usually no more than about 8 reps on this stuff here. So again, this is kind of a heavier day. So I usually want him about the 6 to 8. And then we do a lighter machine squatting on dynamic days. So here we are pushing, a bit heavier weight on this. So we do some 6s and stuff on some of his max effort lifts, right? So a lot of his pressing, some of his machine squats. The good mornings were not quite that low. We're trying to keep them, around 9 or 10 plus. but we're doing well there. I mean, we're up to, over 200 pounds for sets of 10 on the good mornings. So I think we're up to about 230 there right now. That's what I recall we're using. Of course, we do all that. We do glute ham raises, reverse hypers, all of these things. Again, he has access to a reverse hyper, so obviously we're going to use it. We make use of that since he has access to it. Again, the perks of going to a very athletic and powerlifting-oriented gym like this, we got access to a lot of stuff. And he also does plyometrics and box work and some sled work and stuff there too, especially on some of his off days. So he comes in and does GPP also. So in addition to this normal work, he does GPP, high step count at work, and then of course, various martial arts he does recreationally and stuff also. So again, he stays athletic, he stays fit, he stays on top of this stuff. All right, so then we get to the dynamic effort stuff. Dynamic effort benching we're doing with bands. I had him rotate grips. I didn't put up the footage of the wider grip. I probably could have. So again, I have him taking the grips out wider at, in different sets. So again, we're working on all of that. Then I have his incline work on this day because mainly we needed a little more flat pressing for his overall chest. So we're doing the floor pressing and other stuff. I have his incline move over to just a dynamic effort day. So we do the speed benching, and then we come in and we do incline benching behind it, and then we do all his back, tricep, bicep work. So again, more pull-ups. Obviously, all that stuff is still going to be in here. I only have so much room in the vlogs. I don't want the vlogs to run more than about at most, 8 or 9 minutes, because again, it's a lot for people to watch with the client vlogs. So again, we had that, and then we get over to the dynamic effort lower. So this week we did. We're doing the SSB for the speed squats, so we do doubles on the speed box. He does 6 doubles, and then he does 6 doubles on the speed pulls. I've been rotating, obviously, sumo and conventional on those in different phases, and even some deficit conventional work. So here we do, you see the sumo from a couple angles. Yes, we're running that against heavy band tension, which again, I really, really like that on speed pulls. The bands are so much easier to set up than chains, by the way, on speed pulls. So a lot of times it's a convenience to just run bands. I like to myself that way all the time instead of messing with chains. Much as I used to enjoy chains on speed work, it's a pain on deadlifts to set up. Then of course we finish with good mornings. All the posterior chain stuff that we have on the other day is all in here again also. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.